Alina arrived at the office earlier than usual, long before most of her coworkers even woke up. Because she cherished those quiet morning minutes when the world had not yet begun demanding pieces of her. She liked the silence, the soft hum of the lights, the faint echo of her own footsteps across the tiles. It made her feel as if she were walking into a place she could control. But that illusion broke the moment she sat down at her desk. She pressed the power button, waited for the computer to greet her, and then saw the notification appear small, simple, and devastating. Your account was accessed from another device. She froze for a moment, then leaned closer as if the screen might be lying. But the timestamp glared back at her. It happened last night, late after everyone left. After she logged out? After she had trusted the space around her, her mind raced through possibilities. No, they always informed her. A system glitch. Maybe, but unlikely. Someone testing her account? Impossible. She was not new, nor under review. The only explanation she could not ignore was the one that made her stomach twist with a slow, painful pull. Someone had entered her login. Someone had typed her password. Someone had pretended to be her, and the only person who had been near her computer yesterday close enough to glance. Close enough to overhear, close enough to notice anything at all was Rayon. The thought made her chest tighten. Not because she suspected him, but because she didn't want to suspect him. Of all the people in the office, he was the one she trusted the most. Maybe not with her secrets, but certainly with her comfort. He was the person she felt strangely safe around, even when she tried not to be. He had a smile that warmed the coldest mornings, a voice that softened the harshest days, and a way of looking at her that sometimes made her forget. She wasn't supposed to fall for someone at work. She had tried to ignore her feelings for months. She had told herself he didn't notice her the way she noticed him. She had convinced herself he was just friendly, just polite, just kind. But now that she faced the possibility, he had crossed a boundary those feelings tangled painfully with doubt. She opened her folders one by one. The 6 dummy files she had created the night before were all stamped with recently accessed. She had made them during a moment of suspicion she couldn't fully explain, perhaps intuition, perhaps worry, perhaps something she didn't want to admit. They contained nothing truly important. Harmless documents, random text, fake notes, empty drafts. 1 or 2 personal pieces she never planned to show anyone, but even those were not dangerous. They were just private, and he had looked through them. Her pulse beat hard, loud, almost angry. But under it was something else's sweetness she hated, a softness she resented. Because if it was Rayan, if he really wanted to know something about her, why? What was he looking for? What did he hope to find? She tried to shake the thought away. The door opened behind her, and the familiar rhythm of footsteps entered the office. Light steps, calm steps. Steps she knew even when she couldn't see him. Rayan, he always arrived slightly later than her, and always greeted her first. Alina stiffened, trying not to react. She stared at her screen, but her heart seemed determined to betray her by beating faster. "Morning, Alina," he said, his voice warm as always, soft as a gentle breeze. She hated that she liked that voice. "Morning," she replied, keeping her tone neutral. She didn't turn around. She didn't look at him. She didn't trust herself to. He walked to his desk across from hers, humming quietly under his breath. He always did that when he was in a good mood. Normally, she found it sweet. Today, it felt like a question. What kind of person hums after stealing a coworker's login? But then again, what kind of person hums while hiding something stressful? She didn't know. She didn't understand him enough yet. Alina did something she rarely did. She watched him. Not openly, but through small glances reflected off her screen. He sat down, rolled his sleeves up the way he always did, revealing strong forearms with veins that seemed to tell stories. His hair was slightly messy, the way it often became after he ran his fingers through it too many times. He had a small smile on his face, as if he carried a private joke with him into the day. She studied him the way someone studies a photograph, trying to catch a truth hidden in the details. Did he look guilty? Did he look nervous? Did he avoid her eyes? No, none of that. In fact, he seemed too calm, too normal, too comfortable. That was the problem. Either he was innocent, or he was good at pretending. Alina opened her email, trying to distract herself. But her eyes kept drifting back to the files he opened. 6 files accessible only through her login. 6 files that meant nothing but were not meant for anyone else either. She remembered writing them last night, wondering why she even bothered creating decoys. Was it instinct? Was it fear? Or was it the strange urge to see whether someone she cared about cared even more? She didn't want to think about that. Her chest felt heavy, yet strangely full. She wanted answers, but she didn't want to confront him. She wanted to protect herself, but she didn't want to push him away. It was unfair, confusing. Too emotional for this early in the morning. She checked the access. History again. Yes. Someone entered her. Account? Yes. They opened the files. Yes. They stayed logged in for 20 minutes. That was not an accident. No one clicked 6 random files by mistake. Someone had been searching. Someone wanted something. She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. The fluorescent lights above flickered, making her blink. The office was still mostly empty. Only 2 other employees had arrived, whispering quietly near the printer. Rayon sat calmly, typing away, occasionally sipping from a cup of coffee he brewed every morning with way too much sugar. Alina watched him take a sip. And something about that small, ordinary movement brought back all her confusion. She remembered the way he smiled every time he handed her a fresh cup. The way he leaned slightly closer when asking her a question. The way he noticed small things, her routines, her habits. Her expressions almost more than she noticed her own. Why would he invade her privacy? Why would he cross a boundary like that? Unless he felt close to her. Or unless he wanted to feel close, even if he didn't know how to ask. Or unless he was scared she didn't feel the same way. Or unless she was completely wrong. She hated how her heart leaned toward the softer explanations when her mind demanded the logical ones. She checked the files again. The 3rd one was the one that bothered her most. Inside it was a small poem she had written months ago. Simple, personal, and quiet. Something about loneliness, about wanting to be understood, about hiding behind walls because she didn't know how to let herself be seen. She had written it late at night after a difficult day, never expecting anyone to read it. But now someone had. Someone had read that part of her. Someone had seen her more deeply than she allowed. Her throat tightened. She wanted to ask him. She wanted to walk to his desk, look him in the eyes, and demand to know why. But she couldn't. Confrontation made her feel exposed. And she didn't want to show him the parts of her that were shaking inside. Instead, she watched him from the corner of her eye. He was laughing at something on his screen, maybe a meme, maybe a joke from a friend. He didn't seem troubled. He didn't seem worried. He certainly didn't seem like someone carrying the guilt of crossing a line. Just then, their eyes accidentally met. Not fully, but enough for her to feel something pull inside her. He gave her a small smile, gentle, warm, familiar. The smile she always liked. For a moment, she forgot her anger, forgot the suspicion, forgot the files, for just 1 second. She saw only the man she liked, the man she sometimes imagined in the quiet corners of her heart. But then the memory of the notification returned. She broke the gaze quickly, returning her eyes to the screen. She needed to be careful. She needed to stay calm. She needed to remember why she was upset. The office gradually filled with more people, voices echoing lightly. Chairs rolled. Phones rang. Coffee machines hissed. But Elena's world remained centered on 2 things: the 6 dummy files and the man who had opened them. She kept sorting through her tasks, but everything felt heavy. Unfocused. Her mind kept drifting back to Rayan, to the way he interacted with people, to the way he spoke with kindness, to the way he moved with quiet confidence. The idea of him betraying her felt strange, painful, almost unbelievable. And yet the facts pointed straight to him. She didn't understand what to feel. Was it possible he cared about her? Enough to look at her files. Enough to want something more from her. Enough to explore her world without asking permission. The thought made her heart flutter and ache at the same time. She wanted to understand him. She wanted to understand why someone she trusted might break that trust. She wanted the truth even if it hurt, and that truth was getting closer. Because as the morning continued, she noticed something Rayan kept glancing her way. Not obviously, not suspiciously, but enough for her to see that he was studying her, watching her, checking her reactions, as if he were waiting for her to say something, as if he had done something and wasn't sure how she would respond. Her pulse quickened. Maybe he knew she knew. Maybe he wanted her to confront him. Maybe he hoped she wouldn't. Every time their eyes almost met. He shifted slightly, as though he was trying to gather courage. Then he stood up. He walked around his desk. He walked toward her, slowly. Rayan returned from the manager's office 20 minutes later. But those 20 minutes felt far longer to Alina, who spent every second overthinking. She tried to focus on real tasks, but her thoughts kept circling back like restless birds. The memory of him opening those files kept hitting her nerves, sharp, confusing, impossible to ignore. When he stepped back into the workspace, she could tell from the way his shoulders moved that something inside him was unsettled. He walked slower, quieter. As he sat down, he didn't hum. He didn't smile. He didn't even reach for his coffee. He just stared at his screen, still and tense. Alina kept her eyes down, pretending to be busy. But she watched him from the corner of her vision. She noticed how he kept pausing, lifting his fingers from the keyboard as if unsure of what to type next. She saw him rub his neck, then his jaw, then his forehead. Like he was trying to think through something that had no easy answer. The silence between them felt heavy, thick enough for her to taste. She clicked open the activity log again. There they were, the 6 file names glowing like quiet secrets. Sketches, notes, fragments may draft the letter key. Her stomach tightened at the memory. The 5th file, the letter, was the one that could break her. The 6th file key was the one that could expose everything. She had written the letter months ago, never intending anyone to read it. It was soft, raw, honest, almost too honest. A small confession about wanting to be seen. Wanting to matter to someone. Wanting to be held by something more than routine. She had written it for herself, not for any audience. Especially not for RAIN. And the 6th file, the one labeled key, was more dangerous in a different way. Held a metaphor she created last night while feeling strangely bold, strangely curious, strangely tired of hiding parts of herself. Some passwords are stolen. Others are given. I don't know which one you want from me. If he had read that, she wasn't sure how she could ever look him in the eyes again. The thought made her chest compress. She forced herself to breathe at 10:17 a.m. She heard Rayan stand up. His chair scraped softly across the floor. She didn't look. She didn't move. But she felt the shift in the air as he approached her desk. "Alina," he said, voice lower than usual. Not his chirpy morning tone. Not his relaxed midday tone. Something serious. Something careful. She finally looked up, and when she did, she saw everything she feared and everything she couldn't understand. His eyes weren't confident or smug. They weren't mischievous or playful. They were concerned, deeply, almost painfully concerned. He looked like a person who had stepped on something delicate and didn't know how to lift his foot without breaking it. "We need to talk," he said softly. The words made her pulse spike. She sat a little straighter, bracing herself. "About what?" she asked, though she knew exactly what he meant. He took a breath. Not a casual one, a steadying one. "The files." Her throat tightened instantly. She tried to keep her tone calm, polite, professional. "You mean the files you opened with a login that wasn't yours?" He winced slightly, like her words hit deeper than she expected. "Alina, it wasn't like that." "Wasn't like what?" she asked quietly. He opened his mouth, closed it again, then tried once more. "I wasn't trying to steal anything. I wasn't spying. I wasn't doing something cruel." "Then what were you doing?" she asked sharply. unable to stop the sting in her voice. He hesitated, and that hesitation told her everything she didn't want to hear. He didn't have a clean excuse. He wasn't innocent. He had a reason, but not one he could say easily. He looked down at her desk, then back at her. "I wanted to understand something," he said finally. "Something about you." Her breath caught. Her fingers curled slightly over her keyboard. She tried not to react, but her heart reacted for her stupid fast. Hopeful in a way she wished she could shut off. "That doesn't make it right." She whispered. "I know," he said quickly. "I know. And I'm not pretending it does. I didn't know how to ask you things directly. You always look so guarded, like you're here, but your mind is always somewhere else." She swallowed tightly, the pressure in her chest building. He continued, voice quieter. "I know you think I did it because we're competing. I know people are whispering that I want your role. But I wasn't looking for your work files. I swear I wasn't. I wasn't looking for anything that could benefit me." Lena stared at him. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. But trust felt tricky now, stretched thin and fragile. "What were you hoping to find?" she asked, holding his gaze. He opened his mouth to answer, but they were interrupted again by the manager calling someone else, loud and abrupt. It startled both of them. Their moment broke. The tension snapped, but didn't fall away. It stayed there, vibrating between them. Rayon hesitated, then sighed, stepping back. "Please, after lunch. Can we talk? Properly." His voice was almost pleading. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She just nodded slightly because it was the only thing she could manage. He moved away, though slowly, like he didn't want to. Alina watched him return to his desk, but neither of them worked now. They were somewhere between guilt and longing, between understanding and fear. For an hour, neither spoke. Not a word. Not even a greeting. Then something happened that made the morning twist into something more intense. Alina reopened one of the dummy files out of curiosity fragments. She expected to see her own writing. Instead, she found a small note at the bottom of the document. A note she had not written. Her blood chilled. It said, "I'm sorry." Irina's breath escaped her in a small gasp. Her heart began to race so fast she had to press her hand against her chest. He had typed inside the file. He had left a message. He'd been thinking about her long before she confronted him. And he had signed it with an initial just one letter, soft and simple. She didn't know whether to feel touched or violated. The two feelings collided inside her, creating something warm and painful at the same time. Her eyes lifted toward him. He wasn't looking at her. He was staring at his screen, pretending to work, but his clenched jaw gave him away. He was nervous. He was waiting. He knew she saw it. He knew she read it. Her heartbeat wouldn't calm. She wanted to stand up. She wanted to walk to him. She wanted to demand answers. She wanted to hide under her desk. She wanted everything and nothing at once. But she stayed still because she was afraid. Afraid of what she might hear if she asked the wrong question. Afraid of what she might feel if she asked the right one 20 minutes later. She opened the fourth file May draft just to see if he had left another message. It wasn't that she wanted him to. She just needed to know whether this situation was deeper than she thought. And there, near the middle of the text, was another note. Light, almost like a whisper. "You write beautifully." Her cheeks warmed. Heat washed over her face, her neck, her chest. She hated that she blushed. She hated that his words could affect her like this. But she was also embarrassedly, involuntarily moved. She clicked the fifth file, next the letter. Her pulse hammered. She scrolled slowly, bracing for the worst, and then she saw it. He had read it. Every line. Every soft confession. Every quiet truth she had written for herself. There was a message beside the paragraph, where she wrote about wanting to be seen. He had typed, "I see you. I always have." Her breath trembled. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling her emotions spin too many, too fast. A mix of shock, violation, tenderness, fear, longing, anger. and something warmer she didn't want to name yet. His words stayed bright in her mind, echoing louder each second. When she opened her eyes, he was looking at her. Not casually, not accidentally, directly. Their eyes locked, and the world around them seemed too quiet. He stood. She froze. He walked toward her again. "Alina," he whispered, voice raw this time, not controlled, not practiced. "Let me explain." She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Her emotions were too tangled, too sharp, too vulnerable. He continued, leaning slightly forward. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't plan to invade anything. I wanted to understand what you feel, what you think, what you hide. I've wanted to know for longer than I should admit." Her heart ached. Her breath shook. She didn't blink. "I know it was wrong," he said. "But everything I read, everything you wrote, it wasn't something I expected. It made me feel," he stopped, swallowing hard, "like maybe you're not as far from me as I thought." She looked down at her hands. She felt exposed in a way she had never felt before. Then he said something that made her chest tighten painfully. "I didn't read the 6th file," he said quietly. "I hesitated. I thought if I saw something too personal, you'd never forgive me." Her heart jumped. He had an open key. He didn't see her metaphor. He didn't see the confession hidden in the line. "But I want to," he whispered. "I want to understand the things you don't say out loud." Her breath hitched. Her hands trembled slightly. "Can I?" he asked. The question hung between them, heavy with tension. Heavy with possibility. Alina didn't answer. She couldn't. Not yet. Because deep down she knew once he opened that last file, once he saw what she wrote, once he understood what she meant, nothing between them would ever be the same. And she wasn't sure if she was ready to lose the distance that had protected her heart for so long, but she also wasn't sure she wanted to keep that distance anymore. She stared at him, really stared, at the quiet honesty in his eyes, the fear he tried to hide, the softness he didn't know how to mask. The office felt colder that afternoon, as if every desk, every chair, every blinking screen sensed the tension between Elena and Rian. Even the usual noise of printing machines and quiet chatter sounded distant, muffled, almost unreal. Alina sat still, her fingers hovering above the keyboard, her heart beating with a strange mix of fear and longing. She kept replaying his words over and over until they felt carved into her skin. "I didn't read the 6th file. I want to understand you. Can I?" His voice lingered inside her, soft but heavy. She didn't know how to answer him. She didn't know how to trust him. She didn't know how to trust herself. The 6th file key was too personal, too honest, too close to the truth she had never said out loud. Her mind kept replaying the moment. He looked at her after reading the 5th file, the one where she wrote about wanting to be seen. The way his eyes softened, the way he seemed almost in pain. It's the way he stood there as if he were holding back every emotion he didn't have the courage to express. She couldn't forget it. She couldn't ignore it. And that scared her more than anything. Around 1 p.m., most employees left for lunch, filling the air with soft footsteps and laughter. But Alina stayed at her desk, pretending she wasn't hungry, pretending she wasn't shaken, pretending she wasn't thinking about the man sitting across from her, who either accidentally or intentionally learned her heart in ways she wasn't prepared for. Rayan stayed too. He didn't leave, even when his friends asked him to join them. He simply shook his head and said he wasn't feeling it. He stayed seated, eyes flicking toward Alina every few minutes, as if checking whether she was ready, as if waiting for a signal she didn't know how to give. The silence between them filled the room like thick smoke. Finally, after what felt like an hour of breathing too carefully, Rayhan pushed his chair back and stood. He walked slowly, but his steps were steady. When he stopped at her desk, Alina's breath hitched. "Alina," he said, voice low, gentle. "Can we talk somewhere private?" The question hit her like a jolt. Her chest tightened. She didn't want to talk. She needed to talk. She didn't feel ready. She couldn't keep waiting. She nodded. Because saying no felt impossible. He guided her toward the small meeting room at the end of the hallway. Not touching her, not rushing her, not speaking, just walking beside her in silence. Her heart beat harder with every step. When he closed the door behind them, the air felt heavier. The room was small, with a round table and 4 chairs. But right then, it felt like the entire world had shrunk to the space between them. He sat across from her, elbows resting on the table, hands clasped tightly together. She didn't speak. He didn't speak. For a moment, they just looked at each other, unsure how to start. Finally, Rayanne exhaled, long and shaky. "I'm sorry," he said. Not softly this time. Not whispered, clear, honest, full. Alina didn't look away. She held his gaze, waiting. "I shouldn't have gone into your account," he continued. "I shouldn't have opened anything. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was personal. But I was curious. Too curious. I wanted to know you better, but I didn't know how to get close without scaring you away." Alina swallowed. "So you broke my trust." "I know," he said quickly, eyes tightening. "I know, and I hate that I did that. But when I saw those files, I thought maybe they were work-related. I thought maybe I could understand how you think, how you plan, how you create things. But when I opened the first one, I realized it wasn't work. I realized it was you." His voice softened, and I couldn't stop reading. A wave of heat rushed up her neck. She clenched her hands on her lap, unsure whether she wanted to shout or cry or smile or leave the room. "You shouldn't have read them," she whispered. "I know," he said again. "But I'm not going to lie. I don't regret knowing you the way I know you now." Her breathing grew uneven. The way he said it, careful, full of feeling, made her chest ache. He leaned forward slightly. "Your writing, it made me feel something I wasn't prepared for. You wrote like someone who's been alone for a long time. Someone who hides how soft they are. Someone who doesn't let people close because she thinks no one would stay." Her lips parted, but no sound came. "And the 5th file," he continued, voice almost breaking. "The letter. The part where you wrote that you wish someone would see you. I wanted to tell you immediately that I do. I've seen you from the first day you joined." She blinked hard, trying not to show how deeply his words hit. "You walk through this office like you're trying not to disturb the world," he said. "You smile like you're afraid it won't reach anyone. You work quietly, but you feel everything loudly. I've wanted to talk to you for months. Really talk. But you always seemed far away." Her throat tightened painfully. She didn't expect him to see that much. She didn't expect him to notice the quiet parts of her life she had mastered hiding. He continued, more gently now. "I know it doesn't excuse what I did. I know it doesn't erase how it made you feel. But I want you to know why. I didn't want your files. I wanted your truth." The room felt too small, too warm, too intimate. She forced herself to speak. "You still crossed a line." "Yes," he whispered. "And I'm sorry. Truly." Another wave of silence passed between them. Thick, emotional, full of unspoken things. Finally, Rayanne's eyes drifted to her screen through the glass wall of the room. "There's one thing I still haven't seen," he said quietly. She stiffened. "The 6th file," he said. Key, her heartbeat thudded in her ears. She felt exposed just hearing the name. "I want to understand it," he said gently. "But only if you let me." Alina felt heat rise to her face. She wanted to say no. She wanted to protect herself. But she also felt something deep inside her shift. Something tender. Something brave. Something tired of hiding. She looked down at the table, then up at him. She didn't trust her voice, so she nodded. Rayan exhaled a breath that sounded almost like relief. Without saying anything, he stood, opened the meeting room door, and walked to her desk. She followed behind, slow and unsure. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the 6th file. Rayanne stood beside her, close enough that she could feel his presence, but not touching her. She clicked the file. The document opened, that the room felt incredibly quiet. On the screen, the words glowed softly. "Some passwords are stolen. Others are given. I don't know which one you want from me." Rihan read the line silently. His breath caught. His jaw tightened. He read it again, slower this time. Then again, as if memorizing each word. When he finally turned toward her, the look in his eyes shook her completely. "Alina," he whispered, voice trembling. This is about me." She felt heat climb up her neck. She nodded, barely. He stared at her like she had opened something inside him he didn't know he was carrying. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Why would you write something like this?" She didn't want to answer, but she did. "Because I didn't know what you felt, and I didn't want to assume anything." He stepped closer. "And now?" She swallowed. "Now I still don't know." Cain exhaled slowly, then gently reached out not to touch her, but to rest his hand on the edge of her desk, close to her hand. Close enough that she felt the warmth of him. "You should know," he said in a low voice, "that I wanted to get close to you for months. Not because of work. Not because of competition. Because of you." Her breath hitched. He took another breath. "I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know whether I had the right. You always seemed distant. Beautiful, but unreachable. So I wanted clues. I wanted signs. When I saw those files, I thought maybe I'd find something, anything that showed I wasn't alone." Alina felt her heart squeeze painfully, and when I read them, he whispered, "I realized I wasn't." Her eyes softened despite her fear. He moved 1 inch closer, careful, gentle, patient. "I didn't steal your password because I wanted control. I stole it because I wanted closeness. I wanted a key to the parts of you you never show anyone." Her chest felt too tight. The air felt too warm. Her emotions felt too loud. But then he added softly, "But I don't want stolen access. I want permission." The words hit her like a warm shock. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. She couldn't. The moment felt fragile, too precious to interrupt. He looked at her, eyes warm, waiting. "Can I?" he asked again. "Can I know you without hiding? Can I be close without crossing lines? Can I earn the real password someday?" Her throat tightened. Her heart felt like it was trembling in her chest. She didn't give him an answer with words. She gave it by slowly, very slowly moving her hand closer to his until their fingers touched lightly. Softly, tentatively, a small, warm spark passed through both of them. Rayon inhaled sharply, as if that single touch meant more than any file he had read. He turned his hand, letting their fingers intertwine gently, carefully, like something sacred. When he spoke again, his voice was low and full of emotion. "I won't steal anything from you again, but I hope you'll give me a chance." Lena looked into his eyes and saw fear, hope, longing, and something deeper, something that felt like the beginning of something real. She didn't know what tomorrow would look like. She didn't know whether she should trust him completely yet. She didn't know where this dangerous, delicate connection would lead. But for the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. And as their hands held quietly between them, she felt something opening inside hers, something new, something she had been scared to let anyone touch. A door, a key, a beginning.